Welcome to the Seattle Sports Union podcast. I am your host, Abraham DeWeese, back again with the Soulman, Brian Solack. This week, from Truth or Consequences, Hawaii, our very special pro wrestling insider, outsider to most people, but insider for the sake of this show, Anthony DiFrancisco. We call him Tony. How you doing, Tony?
Hello, Abe. Good to see you again. Brian, good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
It's great to see you were on the Jim Cornette podcast not too long ago.
That's true. I did send Mr. Cornette a record that he had been looking for a long time, and he much appreciated it.
One thing I thought was interesting about that show is Brian last thought that you were a made-up person, that you didn't really exist.
I get that a lot. I mean, you'd be surprised.
I've always said that's wishful thinking on my part. But one person who's not made up, one person who is real and made his debut on AEW not too long ago was one Nick Wayne. He's from Everett. You told me about him. What's the big deal about him? And what would you think about his debut against Swerve Strickland?
Well, yes, Nick Wayne, the son of the unfortunately no longer with us, the late great Buddy Wayne. Had a great career in pro wrestling and ran up until the time of his passing the Buddy Wayne Pro Wrestling School up there. Nick Wayne, of course, carrying on the family name. I thought his debut was fantastic. He is showing a great promise, great potential, especially at such a young age. I believe he just finished high school, if I'm not mistaken. So it is a heck of a career thus far, considering what he's working with.
Had you had a chance to see him locally on the independents?
Yeah, so he is actually the current Defy champion over in Capitol Hill. He wrestles there, I would say, once a month or so. Their shows that they have there. He's also the current one of the current Game Changer Wrestling GCW tag team champions. They are mostly on the East Coast, so he will wrestle over there quite frequently. And then, of course, with AEW, now he's wrestling all over the place.
Very cool.
I saw a video online, I don't know how long ago, and it was in regards to Darby Allin was at one of his matches, and then Darby Allin came up and presented him, I guess, with an offer from AEW. Is that rare for guys to get offers that early? I mean, I think he was 15 or 16 at the time.
Oh yeah, that did happen in Defy, and that is rare for someone to be signed, especially a nationwide promotion, a promotion that has a television deal. It would be rare to offer that to someone who is still that young, still unproven on a national stage, but they are willing to put their money where their mouth is, and obviously time will tell what the payoff is.
That's pretty cool. Right on. Now it's time for a quick little storytelling time by me, the Soulman. We're gonna go back to last fall, back when wrestling was all over the place, in my opinion. But I want to talk in particular about the spat between CM Punk and the Elite, and how they were supposedly suspended and kicked off. The chances were they're going to get kicked off this, they're out of the company. And I remember myself thinking it was a storyline, and come to a few months ago, we got the Elite back over the winter, and we got CM Punk back. I can't even talk. CM Punk back recently. I mean, do you still believe it was a non-storyline? I mean, all this crap did happen, or do they? I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, I still think it was a storyline, but nobody seems to believe me. Like a 9-month storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that cooler heads have prevailed at the very least. Okay. And from everything that we've heard, the CM Punk camp and the Elite camp are staying away from each other in separate areas of the arenas. Okay. And however, I will say this, if we do see sometime soon an angle between them, a match between them, could be that we've been played this whole time.
Okay.
So you're non-committal then.
I am committed to seeing what happens next.
Okay. You just don't want Dr. D to slap the taste out of your mouth, right?
I've had that happen before. It's not pleasant.
All right. What's the likelihood that they, with all the boos that CM Punk's been getting on Collision, that they just turn him heel?
That is a good question. I think we are going into a John Cena type of situation where everyone is simply going to accept that there's a portion of the crowd that hates him and a portion of the crowd who loves him. As far as turning him heel in storyline, I think that's a great idea. I think we will see that sooner rather than later, but I think the crowd reaction will still remain split.
Okay, I like that.
Does that go basically hand in hand with the elite then? Will the elite continue to be polarizing as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we will. Every this point, the backstage brawl was a number of months ago, and I believe everyone has chosen sides.
Interesting. It's going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. Recently, Adam Cole, Bebe, and MJF have become a tag team. I mean, what does this work for you? I mean, do you see this anything happening down the road, or they can be buddies? Tell me what your thoughts are.
I don't think we're actually going to see anything long term from it. I think we are just finding things for MJF to do, keep him busy. Obviously, AEW only has 4 pay-per-views per year, spaced out a lot longer than WWE. So we need to find things for the champion to do, keep him busy on television. I am, of course, happy that he's getting consistent television time, but this, odd couple tag team with Adam Cole, I believe we are filling time.
What
It
were your
feels a
thoughts?
lot like the Cody Rhodes MJF buddy relationship to me.
True.
Good point. I didn't think about that. I do have to ask, what were your thoughts on the MJF throwing the birthday party for Adam Cole it was a week ago, I believe, on TV? Kind of reminded me, brought back memories of Mick Foley doing that with The Rock. Or did you think it was cheesy?
Well, MJF has been in cheesy segments before with the dance number with Jericho last year, I believe. But any of these segments, whether it's a contract signing, whether it's a birthday party, always entertaining, always good to have him on screen. And that is where he does his best work, when he is able to be sarcastic towards someone, able to tear them down on the microphone. And I, be honest with you, I loved it.
That was I had a great laugh. That was very entertaining.
Do you notice that there's been more of a turn towards storylines, Tony, or is that just a necessity? Is that born out of necessity?
Yeah, it has been moving a little bit heavier in that direction for AEW, making sure that everyone has a storyline, and that's what I'm a big fan of. I would like everyone to have something to do on the show. I think it will benefit them in the long run, as long as they don't. There's a chance we could end up with multiple birthday party style segments per show, which would be swinging the pendulum too far in the opposite direction. But making sure that everyone is engaged and has something going on in storyline, I'm a big fan.
Does more TV time and a move towards house shows help with that?
Absolutely, yeah. You're familiar with how expansive the AEW roster is. There are people who are sitting at home right now, not having an opportunity to work. So having Collision now as well, and opening up more house shows as they go around the country, is going to give those people more opportunities. And as we all know, the cream rises to the top.
True. I am going to make a prediction storyline, and I want to hear your thoughts real quick. I think they're gonna MJF and Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. They're gonna extend this out a little bit, and I honestly see Britt Baker turning on Adam Cole, a month or two down the road, because I mean, they showed the MJF and Adam Cole going out, and some women walked by, and long story short, MJF went and got all four himself, but MJF was trying to get him to go along with it. And Britt, what are your thoughts? I think that'd be a good storyline.
My thoughts is Brian wants to be best friends with Freddie Prinze Jr. and start writing stories.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Obviously, the long running gag. Anytime that anyone has been feuding with Adam Cole, the go-to insult is your wife's more popular than you. And if they want to lean into that, if they want to use that as fuel for the fire, that would be a great place to start that storyline. Just have Britt be the wedge that drives them apart.
Nice. AEW's their next big gig is next month in London. Is this a make or break for Tony Khan?
Oh no, not Tony Khan is a multi-billionaire. If he sells out Wembley, it makes no difference to his bank account. If nobody buys a single ticket for Wembley, it makes no difference to his bank account.
Well, forget the bank account. Forget the bank account. Think about the promotion itself.
Oh, the promotion itself will continue as long as Tony bankrolls it. He willed it into existence. AEW only came about in the first place due to him receiving his inheritance early from his father. It will continue as long as he wishes it to continue. It is a one-man show.
Right on. Let's switch over to the WWE, because there's one guy everybody just can't stop talking about, and that's one LA Knight. But when I see LA Knight, Tony, I think Discount Rock. Am I wrong?
Well, now certainly you would be referring to LA Knight. Yeah.
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 Talk to me.
Well, yeah, so you are not wrong. Anytime that anyone shows that level of skill on the mic, especially when they do it in WWE, there are inevitably comparisons to The Rock. I would caution people against that. We do want to give LA Knight his fair shake and his time to shine. Yeah, the Rock, keep in mind, towards the end of his full-time career in WWE, The Rock sort of devolved into a parody of himself, turning into a catchphrase machine. I'm hoping the same doesn't happen to LA Knight. I'm hoping he's still able to grow and have that room to hit whatever his own ceiling is without being pigeonholed.
Okay. Jey Uso is the true head of the table, and he's already come out and said that Abraham will not be allowed to sit at the table with him.
Yeah, but then again, Roman Reigns likes to come out and punch people like you and Jey Uso in the nuts. So what can we really say about that?
What are your thoughts?
Well, as I suppose I'll continue to be the head of the kids' table. Sit there with my microwave dinner. But I am happy to see this. Obviously, we had main event Jey Uso during the pandemic Thunderdome era. Now we see main event Jey Uso again. There is a I don't know if you want to call it a curse or being pigeonholed, but anytime there are identical twins in WWE, they remain a novelty act. They are not ever promoted as single stars. They are relegated to their role as being a tag team, and especially as being identical twins. If we see main event Jey Uso truly go on a singles tear and maybe even be the one to dethrone Roman at some point, I would consider that curse to be broken. It would be the first time we've ever seen an identical twin pushed to that level.
You saying Doug and Danny Basham couldn't make it on their own?
Doug and Danny Basham, where's Shaniqua? What happened to her? Can we get her on the podcast, Abe?
Well, wait a minute though. Brother combinations, or at least guys who look the same, have been able to break out. Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, after Jannetty tried to escape through the window, Michaels was able to they were basically twins, is what I'm trying to say. And he was able to break out. Same with Jeff Hardy. Once he and Matt Hardy split up, Jeff was able to rocket to the moon.
Very true. However, when they are dressing identically and when they are consistently referred to as identical twins, think about the Bella twins. Neither of them made it very far without the other in WWE. So that's what I'm afraid of, is that a certain septuagenarian has a very particular mindset when it comes to twin tag teams, and whether he can be broken of that mentality remains to be seen.
All right. Well, got a question for you on the ladies' side. Am I wrong in thinking that Baszler and Rousey are money? I think this could be better than your favorite in Charlotte Flair and Scottish gal or Irish girl, whatever her name is. I think these are actual stars. I'm like,
Yep, Irish girl. Yep.
yeah. What is her name anyway?
Becky
That's
Lynch.
Right, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, the Welsh girl, whatever her name is. I really think Baszler and Rousey are more interesting than those two, because there's a little bit of credibility to them.
Very true. Anytime you have people who are legit, they obviously are automatically seen as legit by the audience. You can easily Google either of their names and see, their MMA resume. I am very, very pleased with Shayna Baszler's progression. If you turn back the clock 5 years, she was scared to death of the microphone, but nowadays she has come very far. She told off Ronda. She cut her off on the microphone. Fantastic, really showing how much she has grown and developed. I would say she's passed Ronda Rousey in the charisma department, and certainly in the in-ring department. Ronda has shown maybe she still hasn't fully quite made the transition to pro wrestling. I am happy to see her in a more full-time role, though. Maybe she will continue to develop. Maybe she won't. Maybe her contract's up and she doesn't come back, and maybe we use that as a launching pad for Shayna.
Like that. Love to see Shayna get more time. Staying with the ladies' side, then rumor has it, I mean, it obviously looks like it from TV, but Bianca Belair is going to be turning heel. How are the WWE fans going to take it? I mean, she's got a lot of young kids and etc. A lot of following.
That is true. I don't know. Oh, it is going to be. There's going to be some time needed to acclimate. Anytime you have someone, I think back to her WrestleMania entrance. She made entrance with all those kids. She is the current women's role model for children, and if she turns heel, I hope that they have somebody. My hope is that WWE has someone else who they have on tap to fill that role. Otherwise, we're going to see merchandise go down. We're going to see ticket sales go down, because Bianca is moving both merchandise and tickets. So I'm hoping whatever the plan is, that they are ready to pull the trigger and have contingencies in place.
Well said.
So do you think Cody's going to take the loss from Seth Fudging Rollins? I mean, I feel like Cody's turning into whipping boy at WWE, and I'm not certain I don't like that. I don't think he has to be his dad.
Also very true. We all know Cody enjoys taking pinfalls on the biggest stages. However, it may damage him if he takes too many of them on the biggest stages going forward. If the ultimate plan right now is for Cody to finish the story part 2 at next year's WrestleMania, well, we do have a lot of time to fill between then and now. So it's okay if he takes a loss here and there. We just need to be judicious with how many he takes.
Yeah, because after that loss, obviously to Roman Reigns, he split with Brock Lesnar. It can't just be 50-50 booking for him and expect that he challenges for the title. That seems dumb. It would be Vince McMahon though.
It would be, yeah, and I believe that is what he's being groomed for. That's how he's being positioned. But again, you know, it's all right if he loses here and there along the way.
I want to know, why doesn't Dolph Ziggler get more airtime anymore? He's been in the company 20 years now. Are they ever going to bring him back, or is he just going to be the yes man and do whatever they say backstage?
I mean, there is something to be said for being a yes man.
True.
Yeah, yes men in WWE end up with big houses and fancy cars. So I'd love to be a yes man, but I believe Dolph Ziggler is someone who will always be in the back pocket, ready to fill any major role that's needed. He had a fantastic short run in NXT a little while ago, and that is indicative of someone who can be called on anytime. Maybe somebody gets injured, maybe there's another pandemic, who knows, some sort of unforeseen circumstance. Dolph Ziggler will be ready, even if he's not prominently figured in.
Okay. Like
Who is Dolph Ziggler? Like, if you reel back to the 90s or 80s, what is he basically the equivalent of?
He's he's the equivalent of hair metal, I suppose.
Van
He
Hammer? Are you talking about Van Hammer?
Oh yes, Van Hammer from late 90s WCW.
Now, I kind of feel like
But
he's a Portuguese man of war. I mean, like, he's capable, but don't you feel like he should probably jump to AEW and really make a name for himself?
I mean, that's up to him. I'm sure that he's crying all the way to the bank, as the saying goes. If he is all right with what he's accumulated so far. I mean, he did hold the world title twice in WWE, and if he wants to ride out the rest of his career, he's free to do so. But if he wants to try to add additional lines to his resume, he might want to see what else is out there when his contract is up.
But what do you want to see out of him, Tony?
I've seen enough for right now.
You see
Gonna
it all,
be
and it all
completely honest.
Okay.
I've seen him sell the DDT. It's good. It's what it is.
We were talking about Nick Wayne a little bit earlier. How is local pro wrestling doing post COVID? I believe you told me that 3-2-1 Battle went out of business. A show that you and I attended a couple times, and but how's Defy doing? How are any of the other programs doing?
Yeah, the obviously the pandemic wreaked havoc on pro wrestling as a whole, and Seattle was not immune to those effects. 3-2-1 Battle, perennial local favorite, did not make it through the pandemic. Their spiritual successor is SOS Wrestling. They are running their shows primarily in Tacoma nowadays. It's fun, it's campy, it is reminiscent of those old 3-2-1 shows. They haven't yet achieved the ubiquity that 3-2-1 had, but I'm looking forward to hopefully them getting to that point soon. Defy is doing well. Most of the shows still taking place in Capitol Hill, some shows taking place in Tacoma, Portland, neighboring states, so beginning to widen their distribution. Always a good show. There is also Lucha Volcanica, our own, homegrown lucha promotion. They did restart after the pandemic. Thankfully, they came out the other end of it They've got a show coming up in August in Magnuson Park, so they are doing well, still putting on shows. And lastly, from what I know, Combat Pro Wrestling, again, used to be in Capitol Hill, but post-pandemic, they've moved out of Seattle proper. They are having a show tonight in Arlington, and you can sort of find them here and there about the greater metropolitan area.
Tonight would be July 15th for our audience out there. Brian, where does our friend Coach, where does he perform?
Out of the Tacoma area. So
do you know which promotion he's in?
Hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but no, I do not remember. Sorry, man. Who is the next Nick Wayne out there? Is there any name out there in the Seattle area that we should look out for?
Ooh, it's hard to say, especially people who are still in high school. It's hard to point your finger at anyone and say, yes, that's the next blue chipper. I am excited about some of the younger prospects in BC, many of who come down to the Seattle area for various shows. I will call out Golden Boy specifically. I believe he's early 20s. He's shown a great deal of potential, and I believe he even had a match on AEW Dark recently. Don't quote me on that, but he's got some good potential. And I'd say he's going to go places.
Just looking up Coach Mike Jones on our Facebook profile here. New Generation Wrestling Northwest, is that anything you're familiar with?
Does not ring a bell, but I'm sure he does a great job.
Question for you: Have you been watching the Dark Side of Wrestling?
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. Sorry, Dark Side of the Ring about wrestlers. Have you any? Are there any of the episodes that really brought something to you that you weren't familiar with, and you were just like, my God, they're doing great work here? Because I feel that way about every single episode, to be honest. But I'm not in deep as much as you are. Just trying to figure out if is this kind of common knowledge, or are they really bringing something to the table with this Vice series?
Oh yeah, it has been, well, the proof is in the pudding. It has been renewed season after season after season, so they're doing something right at a minimum. I really appreciate how they are bringing stories that might be common knowledge to wrestling fans, like the plane ride from hell, bringing those stories to an entire new generation who may have never heard of them, and people who are outside the wrestling bubble who may with the plane ride from hell, what on earth are you talking about? So to bring that in an easily digestible format, everything is shot very well. You've got interviews from the people who were there. It's fantastic. I did just recently watch the Adrian Adonis episode. I knew of him and some of his highlights of his career, but they went into great detail. A story with a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and sometimes life imitates art.
Yeah, that was a really good one. So was the Matt Bourne Doink the Clown episode, because I kind of thought Doink the Clown was just a joke, but there's the interesting story is Matt Bourne's story. Same with Adrian Adonis. I do remember him wrestling in the 80s, but he had the foppish character, flamboyant character, and I just thought, who cares about that guy? But he actually had an interesting life, and I didn't realize that Dangerous Dan Spivey, aka Waylon Mercy, was such a badass. From that, that was pretty cool.
Where is this show on? Is this on Netflix? I mean, I've never heard of it till you guys brought it up.
It's on Vice.
On Vice, okay.
You can watch. I've seen episodes on YouTube. Is it on regular TV, Tony?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure it's available through their
legally it's available out there.
Through their online service. Yes, I'm sure it's available there. I'm not sure if it's available on traditional television.
Okay.
Yeah, I've watched the episodes on YouTube. I mean,
Okay. I'll keep an eye out for that. Appreciate that.
catch them before they're taken down, I guess. But I mean, there were some good episodes, but I kind of wonder about how ethical it is to cut up stories like that. For example, Tommy Dreamer used to work for AEW until he made statements on that plane ride from hell episode that he claims was taken out of context.
Oh,
And he got fired from AEW like the next day.
Mhm.
Do I have that right, Tony?
I believe you do, yes. That's the danger of giving people a live microphone and then presenting that interview to the entire world. There have been incredulous statements made during several Dark Side episodes. Oh my gosh, I can't remember who it was specifically, but during the Jimmy Snuka episode, someone claimed that they were in the car on the day that Nancy died, even though that was not, the police report makes no mention of that, and no one ever made any claim of that. So for people to engage in historical revisions is maybe not to be unexpected, but even still, it is slimy at a minimum.
Was there an episode that you didn't really care for? Or they
Yeah, I would say the rock and wrestling episode. You know, I would hate to call any of their episodes filler because, as I mentioned, they do a fantastic job. But some of the stories we've been over and over, the plane ride from hell, again, that's been done to death, but again, valuable for someone who is hearing about it for the first time, someone
Right.
who's unfamiliar with the situation.
I was not too keen on the Ultimate Warrior one.
Mm.
It seems to be hip to like, crap on the Ultimate Warrior. WWE's done it several times. um, but I don't know what about him, like, just there's never been like a flattering documentary made about it. But again, Dark Side of the Ring's not meant to be flattering. I get that, but um, I don't think the Warrior's the monster everybody says he is. I got a lot of joy out of his wrestling. So
True.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, he was a product of the time, and I don't lay any blame at his feet beyond the blame that I would lay on that generation as a whole, where I mean, nose candy was as prevalent as pot is today. So I can't blame him for being a I can't blame him for being a product of the time, even if
Sure.
I do blame the time.
Can we blame Abraham though?
I wasn't a
uh,
product of that time.
only every day.
I was a product of the Gen X. Everybody hates us generation.
Uh, moving on, I got a question. I mean, I'm trying to find a good wrestling podcast out there with not a Chris Jericho's name on it or Jim Cornette. Is there like a good podcast out there with that talks about all AEW, WWE?
So I think he's asking for a podcast without bitter old wrestlers airing,
Well
right?
said.
But because yeah, there's plenty of like Dutch Mantel, Jim Cornette, Eric Bischoff complaining about everything in the world.
You can take a listen to Something to Wrestle, which features Bruce Pritchard. Of course, Bruce Pritchard was in the room for every major WWE/WWF moment from the 80s to present, and his access to the inner machinations is unparalleled. Although you do get in, he is, and perhaps rightly so, has the reputation of being a yes man. So you'll always receive whatever he's discussing always comes with a bit of WWE spin on it. So you have to keep that in mind as you listen. Other than that, if you're looking for something a little more current, a little more up to date, something that covers a wide variety of different wrestling promotions, there are fantastic podcasts available on YouTube and podcast apps. You have Wrestle Talk over in the UK. You have What Culture also in the UK. I'd give those a listen. They cover a wide variety of topics. It has a little more youthful bent to it. And the people who host those podcasts don't come with any predetermined agenda along with it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, what culture is pretty good. Yeah, there just seems like a proliferation though of the aged, hates everybody in the business podcasts, and I'm trying to remember. I'm trying. Oh man, I'm trying to remember the one. There's like this guy who does like top 10 lists, and he'll have wrestlers on, and it's kind of interesting to listen to him ask. Let's just take the plane ride from hell. He'll ask one wrestler their perception of it, and then he'll ask somebody else, and it's like two different stories.
Okay.
And they're out there, but I gotta say that trying to cut through to what the reality is, it's almost like sometimes those podcasts are a work in of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's life and that's history. Everyone is looking out for number one, and you often, whether it's pro wrestling or something else, you do have to do your own research. You do have to look at multiple sources and try to synthesize from that something that's a little closer to the truth than you were the day before.
Okay.
Except for Dr. D, he looks out for the business. He All right, Tony, if you were a wrestler, which wrestler would you be? I personally see you as a Rico, or the hairdresser, or
Okay.
the Repo Man, somebody like that. But was there a wrestler that you liked growing up? You're like, man, I want to be that guy.
I wouldn't exactly put Rico and the Repo Man in the same category. Two very divergent wrestlers there. But of course, my favorite wrestler as I was growing up, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Recent felonies notwithstanding.
I thought that was his son that got the felonies.
Oh, he and his son came away with some felonies. Yeah.
Embezzlement, like, isn't that the perfect crime for $1 Million Man?
The real embezzlement was the friends we made along the way. Yeah. But I enjoyed seeing his. I guess you could compare him to being an MJF of his generation. He established himself not caring what anybody else had to say. He was going to exert his own influence, exert his own dominance. I've got the money, you don't. Here, so that means we're going to do things my way. So a very charismatic wrestler, a force of personality, and it really shone through on television.
Bobby the Brain versus Paul Heyman. No holds barred. Who wins?
I think the fans
how about
win.
no mouth barred?
Okay, touche. Anyway, who wins?
Ooh, that's a good one. So Heyman in his prime versus the Brain in his prime. I would have to go with the Brain. He was always just a hair quicker on the trigger than Heyman, and had more experience than Heyman at any point in his career. So I would have to go with the Brain on that one.
Bobby was the guy that said Jannetty tried to jump through the window, right?
I mean, he cowardly tried to escape. This is common knowledge.
I agree, though. Bobby the Brain probably would win. It would be close, though. Pretty bloody match.
Do you have a particular manager that was severely underrated that probably deserves more credit?
Actually, I would say Sunny. Sunny, obviously, women during that era in WWF weren't given much to do beyond being eye candy. But Sunny got it. She knew what she was doing. She knew where she had to be, where her wrestler had to be. She got it. She understood it. She sold a lot of tickets, and unfortunately, she was never given her just due, and her drug issues obviously came into play. But it was rare in that era to see somebody who nailed it so perfectly in the manager role. And I'm sorry to see how the rest of her life turned out.
Yeah.
Maybe you just like criminals.
You know what? That's an issue that I will have no opinion on. My lawyer has advised me to make no statement.
Well, what did Sunny do? I mean, because I remember like the Godwins throwing slop on her. She was Chip and Zip. Is that their name? The Body Donnas manager.
The Body Donnas, yes.
But I mean, what did you like about her? Let's say versus like a Sherry Martel or the other women of her time, Miss Elizabeth.
Well, Miss Elizabeth and Sensational Sherry came about a little before Sunny, and at that point, the ceiling was a lot higher for especially female managers in WWF. So I might not put Sunny on the same level as them. I'm just saying that Sunny was unfortunately, limited to that glass ceiling that existed for her in that era. And everybody lost out because of it. Who knows what her ceiling was at that point if she had been allowed to thrive? But we'd still got some good memories. She had the slop dumped on her by the Godwins, so she was not, she was willing to let herself be humiliated, get some good moments out of it, and we have to thank her for that.
Did you download her in 1997?
Correction, everybody downloaded in 1997.
Well, you're a true feminist then, I guess, is what you're saying.
As equal treatment. Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Abraham in the ring. Who wins?
Ooh.
Austin doesn't have any knees, so I think I could kneecap him with a tire iron.
Oh, I'll say that Abe at a minimum doesn't say what every time that I try to speak. So I'm actually, despite my better judgment, I'm siding with Abe on this one.
Right on.
I usually also carry a 6-pack around me with me at all times, so I'll be able to, like, if he comes at me, I can also throw beers at him slowly.
Good call.
Good tactic.
Well, how about Stone Cold's career though? Let's call it what it is. I mean, he was kind of a flash in the pan, wasn't he? I mean, you think about some of the other wrestlers who were able to stay relevant for a very long period of time. When you look at his career, he was only relevant for less than a decade.
Oh, absolutely. I thought when Owen Hart gave him the pile driver, I thought that was it, that we would never see him wrestle again. When he took his ball and went home, was it 2 years after that? I thought we would never see him again. So from his King of the Ring victory to the end of his full-time run, we're talking maybe 6 years of full-time him being in the ring. And that, unfortunately, I mean, if you think back to how common, I'm sorry to say, how common neck fusions were back then, Benoit, Edge, many people had it at the time, having those vertebrae fused together in order to get a few more years out of your career. Yeah. Nowadays, mercifully, very rare for that to happen, but for us to get as many years from him as we did post pile driver, it's I prefer to look at it glass half full. He
Okay.
could have very easily if he hung up his boots after that incident, sure, call it a career. Nobody will blame you.
Was WrestleMania in Seattle the last full-time appearance for him?
I don't recall.
Because he lost to The
One of the
Rock.
last.
I think that was like the last time we saw him, other than special appearances.
I think you might be right on that.
Yeah.
And that would have been 03 maybe?
Oh, 04.
04.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that'd be like 96 through 04, 8 years.
Yep, something like that.
And the
Yeah.
pile driver from Owen Hart was when?
97 or maybe 98.
No,
98,
before.
something there. Yeah, so if you
Okay.
think about it, like he was, I think, more famous than any wrestler had ever been at one point, for one point in their career. Like Hogan was up there, but I think even Stone Cold was a little bit above Hogan.
Oh yeah, it was common for younger people who may be listening to this. It may be hard to conceptualize, but we're talking about a moment in history where you could walk down the street and it seemed like every 10th person was wearing an Austin 316 shirt, despite maybe not even knowing what Austin 316 is. It became cool outside of the wrestling bubble and infected the mainstream to a degree that I've never seen before or since.
I remember during the Monday Night Wars, they surpassed Monday Night Football in ratings. And that just hadn't been done in, 20, 30 years before that.
Very true. Yeah, and it never happened since. It's a I do remember back during that period watching the ratings week by week, watching Raw creep up towards Monday Night Football, and everyone wondering, will it happen? And if it does, when will it happen? And to see, I don't remember how many times it happened. It was vanishingly rare for it to occur. But for Raw to beat Monday Night Football, wow, everybody lost their minds back then.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, but like NFL was actually worried and they stopped putting their main attraction games on Monday night because Nitro and Raw were outdrawing it. Like it didn't make any sense to have the Cowboys versus the Niners on Monday night. And that's when that really changed. For the younger folks out there, Monday Night Football was the game. Like, am I wrong, Solack? I mean,
No,
like,
you're correct. Oh yes.
I mean, that was the thing that I rushed. I rushed home from Boy Scouts to watch, and like, in Boys, yeah, I know. It's like, do you want to sit here and whittle, or you want to watch football?
Even back when Howard Cosell was there, that go back that far in the late 70s, it was excellent.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it was the only football that they watched because, they might have something going on Sunday. A lot of people who very, religious people, they might catch the late game and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, that's why I'm not religious. I wanted to watch 10 a.m. football games.
Sister Heck saw right through you, Abraham. I knew that.
Oh, yeah. We're towards the end, but I got to ask a question because something that I'm really excited about, I almost feel like there is a resurgence in pro wrestling. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm too deep into it. Maybe Solack and I, and you and I, Tony, we talk about it so much. Maybe I feel like we might be too close to it. But do you feel like in the mainstream zeitgeist that wrestling is getting more popular now again?
Oof. I hate to say it, but I'm gonna disagree.
Oh,
I do think that we've seen a democratization, if you want to call it that, of professional wrestling. You'll see wrestlers making appearances on talk shows and making appearances for popular YouTubers, podcasts here and there. So pro wrestling is more available and more readily consumed for those who want to consume it. But the numbers don't lie. The percentage of the population watching pro wrestling on any sort of regular basis has been going down and down and down. Dynamite is, AEW's flagship show. They are lucky to break 1 million on any given week, and Raw has the advantage of having been around for 30 years. It is lucky, 2 million, maybe 2.5 if it's a real banger, but these numbers have been stale or declining since the 90s.
Obviously, it seems like wrestling is very cyclical. What is it missing that doesn't garner it mainstream attention?
That's a good point. My theory, and I wish I had some proof to back it up here, but my theory is that MMA has cannibalized the audience, at least 90% of it. So to get back to that same level, I would say that we need to supply scratch the itch that MMA provides. One advantage that pro wrestling has is that your favorite fighters can fight on a much more frequent basis than in MMA. I know that we've tried to do this with Raw Underground, if you remember that abysmal storyline, and recently NXT Underground as well. That's not the way to go about it. I would like to see a more MMA styled wrestling presentation. Maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't, but I don't think we've seen that tried on a major nationwide platform yet. And it could be the missing ingredient. If not, hey, let's throw something else at the wall.
I honestly think it has more to do with getting the wrestlers onto different platforms, getting them into TV shows, into movies. What do we remember from the 80s? I mean, like, they had wrestlers on regular TV shows. Same thing happened in the 90s, but I guess maybe there has to be demand for that from the networks and producers of those shows. But yeah, getting some promotionality out of it. I mean, Solack, what do you find's missing from wrestling right now?
I don't personally, for me, I don't see too much missing. I mean, I want to go back to what you
Solack's like, screw all those people. If wrestling is made for me, that's all that counts.
As long as I'm having fun.
I go real quick though about the popularity. I don't think it's more popular, but for someone like me, I watched it religiously through early 2000s, and then everybody left the show and I stopped really watching, and then the pandemic hit and I started watching Raw and SmackDown, and Abe introduced me to AEW, and I heard about NXT, so I started watching that, and it just brought back memories from before, when I used to watch it all the time. And then pandemic was over and they started coming out into to our cities, and I just think a lot of old people like me are making us think it's more popular. And storylines is the only thing I would change. We need more storylines.
I agree with you, because if you make it episodic, it's a reason to watch it again. That seems to be that seemed to have been a failing in the early 90s. I kind of stopped watching wrestling because the stories sucked and there was nothing interesting. And then, like you, Brian, kind of around 2000, like after WrestleMania came to Seattle, I kind of stopped watching it. Like like you said, all the wrestlers I liked were retiring or dying or whatever.
Well said. Yep.
True.
Well, Tony, it's been great having you on the show.
Yes.
Do you have any last comments or thoughts about local wrestling or what people should be looking for out there?
Sure. I always say you should support your local brew. Make sure to check out Defy. They are the biggest name in local Seattle-based wrestling. Defy on Demand. You can find their shows there. They're uploaded a few weeks after the event takes place, and you can keep up to date with that and support the local wrestlers.
Right on. And then, I guess, to answer a question from Solack a little bit earlier was, can you find where can you find Vice TV for that show?
Yeah.
I think it's on. I looked on the internet and it says it's on Xfinity. So if you have Xfinity,
Okay.
or whatever cable service, I'm sure there's a channel it's on. Again, you can also go to vicetv.com or just look for episodes of it on the internet. I mean, it's readily available. It's really interesting, and you really get to see a side of it that is oftentimes more interesting than the actual performance that you see on the screen. We always like to end the show with a positive note, what we call shout outs. Feel free to name a person, place, thing that you're grateful to or for. Solack, start us off.
I guess I'll start it. I'll just say happy birthday to our one and only Matthew Page, who celebrated his 49th birthday recently. So happy birthday, Matt.
His 49th birthday?
I'm joking.
He's like, age-wise, he's like mentally 68. But yeah, I'll do a shout out here for my dad, who was supposed to go back to his apartment, but they're holding on him a little bit longer. So shout out to you, Dad. Hope you get well soon, and you can get back to sending me text messages about how angry you are about baseball. And over to you, Tony. Shout out.
I'll definitely get well soon. Shout out to the crew over at the dock in Fremont. Lovely crew they've got there, and we get together there every Wednesday, play some games, do some trivia, have some fun. The food's great, the drinks are cheap. It's a great place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you once again for joining us on the Seattle Sports Union podcast. Thank you very much, Tony DiFrancisco, and to Brian Solack. On behalf of Brian Solack and myself, Abraham DeWeese, we thank you for watching Seattle Sports Union. Check us out on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, at Seattle Sports Union. We'll check you out next time. Okay, and that's the show.
Right on.
There we go.
Thanks, Tony. That was fun.
Always good to chat wrestling with you.